Just how crazy can card drawing get in Magic the Gathering? Let's find out. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video discussing card draw in Magic the Gathering, where it's been, where it's going. What started this all off, this thought process, was a new card from Commander 2018 called Endless Atlas. Now, this is a 2 casting cost artifact that for 2 mana, you tap it, draw a card. Now, you can activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Now, there were a number of different thoughts I had when I saw the card. First of all, I genuinely enjoy the artwork. I love the fact that it kind of goes off. You can see it's an endless atlas. It's going off there, off the edge of the artwork even. And the gigantic mountain that's sprouting up out of it, that little landscape with even the clouds and everything, like the 3-dimensional nature of the atlas, I definitely enjoy that as well. The flavor text says, guarded by cartographers, disdained by warlords, coveted by adventurers. I don't know why it would be disdained by warlords. Honestly, my real question is, how do you store this thing? If it goes on forever, how do you roll it up to store it, right? I don't know. Does it just keep scrolling, or is this thing literally an endless atlas? Another question that I had before we get into the main topic of discussion is this really a good commander card? I don't play enough commander to know. Are there a lot of single color commander decks? Don't commander decks play like 2-3 colors and have a broad mana base using a lot of different 1 copy of lands as opposed to a bunch of basic lands, which is what this would be fantastic with? I mean, personally, when I saw this card, I thought, oh my god, this is amazing. Like in like a straight green deck or something like that I like to play, this is automatically going in. But then it led me to think about old school card draw, right? Because card draw obviously has been part of the game since the beginning. Now we're limiting our discussion here to artifacts in the same vein as Endless Atlas. And what that means is we're going to talk about card drawing artifacts that have the same casting cost and the same activation cost to get you the card draw, right? So Endless Atlas costs 2 to activate and it costs 2 to put out. Now, the reason I like this is it ties back to the very first card draw artifact in Magic the Gathering, James Tome. Now, that card I really enjoyed, and there were layers to it for me, because I'll be honest, when I first got the card, I just got it for its utility. I just liked that it let me draw cards. I didn't even notice the artwork. The more you pay attention to the artwork, the darker it gets. You realize, oh wait, there's eyes on this book. And then you look down at the binding and, oh, it's got vicious little teeth. And the book like the book bookmarks or whatever it is, that red that's supposed to be, those are like little book markers. Well, they look kind of almost fleshy and bloody. And then when you actually look at the illustrations in the book, you can see what looks like possibly a heart or another internal organ with all these veins and things popping out of it, along with words on the other side explaining. It's a really cool idea. This is a magical spell book, essentially, which I really enjoy. So in the beginning of Magic, it cost 4 to put out and 4 to activate. That was the level we were at. Now, what you need to understand is old school Magic was both slow and fast. You had 2 versions. If you were playing with the Moxes, the Lotus, and the Sol Rings and everything like that, a lot faster games. And then James Tome fit in there fantastically, because a first turn Sol Ring even equals a second turn one of these. And the games would travel much more slowly. You didn't have gigantic, amazing cards like you do now. The curve of power is definitely different now. Back then we had Force and Nature. Now you get like Aggressive Mammoth and cards that are even better than Aggressive Mammoth. So the games do tend to go faster. James Tome was totally fine for the slow games as well, where you're just slow rolling, taking time to build your board position. Old school Magic was a slow rolling, tempo card advantage game. The card advantage from James Tome actually mattered a lot. I played this card in a lot of Magic decks. Honestly, I played it in a ton of decks. That's part of the reason that I remember this card. You got to understand, the card draw back then was absolutely terrible. Like, Jandor's Ring came out in Arabian Nights. That's the first Magic expansion. I'm going to show you Jandor's Ring. Try not to faint at how awful this card is. 6 mana casting cost artifact, okay? How does it work? Pay 2 mana, discard the last card you drew this turn to draw a card. So you have to pay 6 to put it out, 2 to activate it, and discard the last card you can't even pick a different card from your hand. You literally have to discard the last card you picked up off your deck. How awful is that? Seriously, that's ridiculous. Look at Jame Tome. For the exact same mana, 4 to put out and 4 to activate. That costs 8 in total. The first activation. Jandor's Ring costs the exact same. Just ridiculous. I do love the goofy little face in the artwork, though. That little face that it looks like on the side of the ring. But yeah, that's the level we were dealing with, right? And then you'd have things like Ring of Renewal from Fallen Empires, which is actually the step up. 4 for 4 was Jame Tome. Ring of Renewal is 5 for 5, so 5 mana to put out, 5 mana and tap it, discard a card at random from your hand, and draw 2 cards. Now this one was interesting. You lost a card, but you get to draw 2. I tried it out. Overall, I found it to be far too expensive. Even in the slow world we were living in at the time, it was too slow. So this card got passed over. This is the only 5 for 5 we have. So we have a 5 for 5, a 4 for 4 as the Jame Tome. Some of you have been paying attention may have noticed that the 3 for 3 actually showed up in M19, and that's where we got Arcane Encyclopedia, and this is clearly a reimagining of the Jame Tome with a much more friendly sort of magical laboratory kind of bent to it. Like, honestly, the previous Jame Tome, when you look at the artwork, it does kind of have a black aligned bent to it, but it just looks really cool. It's so flavorful, that old school artwork. Now this looks great too, don't get me wrong. The Arcane Encyclopedia, the artwork on this is very interesting in terms of just this nice illuminated book, but in another way, it's also kind of bland. There's a lot of detail here, but it's also kind of generic, I feel like. It doesn't speak to me the same way that the original Jame Tome does, or even the Jandor's Ring, or just the ring that we saw in the Ring of Renewal. And the idea of rings that gain you knowledge are also conceptually kind of fun. It's different than the books. Although the books, I will say this, and in this card's defense, this card was meant for a beginner set. This was meant to lead beginners into it. So having a simplified concept, including the artwork, is totally okay. And this is actually far more reasonable in terms of like Jame Tome. It's no longer on the curve. I've tried playing it in more recent decks, and it's just dead. It's garbage. It can't stand up anymore. So it's been replaced. Obviously, it's been obsoleted at this point, as this card is strictly better. There's literally nothing worse about this card. It does the exact same thing as a Jame Tome, but now it only costs 3 to activate and 3 to put out. So this is just functionally better. Moving on, we have the 2 cost category, right? So that's where we find cards like Endless Atlas that we talked about, and these are conditional draws. Anything less than the 3 for 3 so far are conditional draws, because card draw is a powerful effect. You need to balance it out, right? You can't just go ahead and go, you know what, 2 for 2. Although I do wonder, when I looked at this, I said, I wonder how long we're going to reach before we get to the point where it's just 2 for 2 with no restrictions. So this card would just say 2 and tap, draw a card. I feel like power creeping over a certain amount of time, we might actually get there, but it would take a significant amount of time. The previous time that they did 2 for 2 was when they did it in the Saviors set, Saviors of Kamigawa, and that was a 2 casting cost scroll called Scroll of Origins. And you pay 2 and tap that, and you draw a card, but you can only do that if you have 7 or more cards in your hand. So that one obviously is very restrictive and not the most fantastic when you have to keep your hand full, but obviously can be played around as well. It's not terrible. It's just also not amazing. I personally find Endless Atlas to be far more sexy compared to Scroll of Origins, because just having 3 lands with the same name is going to be incredibly easy if you play basics. That's not going to be tricky at all, in which case Endless Atlas becomes a steal in my eyes. I really like this card, honestly. So, you wonder to yourself, are there any 1-for-1s? No, there are no 1-for-1s. The closest thing to a 1-for-1 is Liar's Pendulum, and we'll show this one here. It's basically 2 and tap it, name a card. Your opponent guesses whether you have that card in your hand or not. Then you reveal your hand. If they guess wrong, then you get to draw a card. So basically, they have to guess whether a card you name is in your hand. They guess wrong, you get to draw a card. Now, this obviously costs 2 to activate, so it's not a 1-for-1. And on top of that, it has a restriction that becomes less useful as time progresses because your opponent can figure out how many copies you have of things in your deck. You also have to reveal your hand to them, giving them information for that card draw. So seeing a 1-for-1, that's something I don't ever expect to see. Is there a 0-for-0? Yes, there is. It's called the Library of Alexandria. Bam! Put it out. Doesn't cost anything to put out. Taps to draw you a card. It is busted, guys. I played with Library of Alexandria back in the day. And yeah, if you've never played with it, it's insane. If you get it in your starting hand, it's crazy. You actually want to be going second. It's like 8 cards, drop the library, get that extra card draw. Like, you'd think that it would slow you down, but no. The sacrificing that mana for card draw in the old days was amazing, and now obviously it would still be amazing in a deck built around it because it's one of the old power cards worth a ton of money. So we won't see a 1-for-1. That seems far too absurd. This 1-for-2 seems to be about as far as they're willing to push it because we have not seen any other artifacts that cost just 1 mana and will let you draw cards like this consistently, like turn over turn. Maybe not absolutely every turn, but this is the most consistent way you can get card draw with a 1 mana artifact, and it's still not that consistent. So overall, I find this progression to be very interesting. The game was much slower, and we see now, like when I look at the encyclopedia they have for MM19, that feels right. That feels like the right level to be at right now. That feels the correct power level, and Endless Atlas feels strong to me. The only thing I don't understand is it really a good commander card? Because again, I don't understand commander mana bases that well. But those are my opinions. A little slice of card drawing history with a particular angle focused on the mana costs equaling the activation costs. So let me know what you guys think, and I will probably be back in a moment because I always forget to do something at the end of my videos. Told you this was gonna happen, man. It's always something, man. All right, so I want to welcome the 2 new Golden Lords of Purple, Billy and Meet Some Guy. Meet my newest Golden Lord. Thanks for joining my Patreon, bros. Really appreciate the support. I will see you guys down in the end scroll, down near my dong longus.
Alright, we're sneaking into the circus here. Just letting you guys know, together, we're the 6-color magic.